Hello. I had time while I was sitting in court to read comments, read them. And I think we would all be benefited by a little more civics lesson. Just a skosh. We're getting there, kids. We're getting there. All right. The purpose of a district court, the lower end court. In California, it would be the purpose of the superior court. But whatever that entry level court is, the purpose of it is to make determinations of fact and to apply the law to those facts. That's the role. It's not to do any real interpretations of the law. It's designed to determine the facts and apply the law to those facts. The role of the appellate level courts in whatever state or federal jurisdiction you're in. So in California, it'd be the Court of Appeals. In the federal court, it would be whatever circuit you're in, Court of Appeals. The purpose of those courts is not to look at the facts. They will defer to the finding of the lower courts as to what the facts are. The court believed the plaintiff, didn't believe the defendant. Great. We're not disturbing that. I mean, they'll disturb it if there's something real glaring. But if there's any way to support the finding of fact that the lower court made, the Court of Appeals will not disturb it. They will just accept the facts that the lower court found to be true. What the role of the appellate court is to do is to ensure that the lower court correctly interpreted and applied the law. They're just looking at the law. And their decisions on how the law is to be interpreted and applied has precedential power. It is binding on the lower courts. The lower courts are mandated to use that particular interpretation, that method of applying. So, and then the Supreme Court in whatever jurisdiction you're in, either the U.S. Supreme Court or a state Supreme Court, would then also be looking at the law, the interpretation of the law, and the application of the law. They don't really look at the facts. Generally speaking, by the time something gets to a Supreme Court, they are completely unworried about the facts. So, the Supreme Court, their decisions are precedential. They are controlling, they're binding on all the lower courts below them. The appellate courts, their rulings are binding on all the courts below them, and there are no courts below district courts in the federal system, superior courts in the California system. Your system may vary. Check with your local attorney. In the federal system, there are different circuits. So, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision is binding on all the district courts in the Ninth Circuit. Precedential power. But in other circuits, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision is only persuasive. And in fact, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is also persuasive. Stare decisis. It's not binding. They don't have to follow that previous ruling. They don't have to follow the rulings of other circuits. In fact, a district court in the Ninth Circuit would only find a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision to be persuasive. It is not bound by it. It is not precedent. So a district court's decision is never precedent, and it's never persuasive. There is no instance where a district court's decision is going to be persuasive. Does that mean the district court's opinion is useless? No. It is binding on the parties. Is binding on the parties. So if you're Matsumishi and you sue the Department of Homeland Security and the district court finds that it has jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, and personal jurisdiction, and that it is the proper venue for that action, and then it goes on to render a decision, that decision is binding on the parties. Now nobody else is going to be bound by that. I am not going to be bound by it. Nobody else is going to be bound by that decision. Because the court doesn't have personal jurisdiction over me. The court doesn't have, there is no case or controversy in front of it where I have standing to do anything on it. The only people who are there who that decision is going to be binding on are the parties. And the parties may be like a class of people. The parties may include cross-claimants, cross-defendants. I mean, there could be a lot of people it's binding on, but it's only binding on the parties. If the parties stipulate to something, the court will sign off on it as a court order. But that doesn't mean that the court found any underlying facts. The court expressly has not found any underlying facts because the parties have stipulated to everything. Can the parties enforce that court order against each other? Absolutely. Can anybody outside of the parties enforce it? No. Because you're not party to it. You're not a defendant. You're not a plaintiff, petitioner, respondent, cross-claimant, cross-defendant. You're not a party to the action. You don't have standing to enforce it. The issue with Matsumishi is that there is nothing there for anybody else other than Matsumishi and the DHS. And to the best of my knowledge, not having looked it up in a long time anyway, is that all these stipulated agreements, all the points that they made that they stipulated to, have all been accomplished. The stipulation has been fulfilled. It's like a contract. It's not ongoing. It's not perpetual. DHS had to pay a certain amount of money for attorney's fees and things like that. They did. The DHS had to create and distribute a memo, a policy memo, to clarify their understanding of 41 CFR 102-74.420. They did. It's done. There's nothing left to enforce. If the FPS violates somebody else's rights, then instead of going to court to try to enforce a stipulation, which has nothing to do with the person who's trying to enforce it, what you would do is you would file your own lawsuit. Because all that happens when you try to enforce a court order is that you may get some contempt charges. Yeah, it's a quasi-criminal, it's a civil criminal quasi thing. And typically what will happen is the court will tell the non-compliant party to comply with the court order. And then if that doesn't work, then there will be some sort of sanctions, some fines or fees or whatever. I mean, it's not like the court's gonna immediately throw the entire DHS management team into the pokey. So when I said that the Matsumishi DHS district court case is absolutely meaningless, I mean it. For everybody except for Matsumishi and the DHS, absolutely meaningless. And you can't enforce it. You can't go to court to enforce that stipulation. So there you go. That's what I meant. There is your civics lesson part 2. I should be getting paid for this. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the sunny weather wherever you are, if in fact it is sunny. There's a huge bank of clouds in front of me, but I'm not under them yet. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.